Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park 20 playthrough with the Phillies. And we're in spring training of the 2044 season, my last spring training, my last season. You're probably going to hear me say this a few times over the next few episodes, but I'm going to be 75 in game at the end of this season, sometime in September. And I'm going to retire and may start a new playthrough of Out of the Park 20. Might do another game, haven't decided what. But this long run with the Phillies is about to come to a close. So 28 years, didn't quite make 30, but so far 10 playoff appearances, no World Series wins. Manager of the year twice. But if you look at, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons have been really good. And really, I'd go back to even 2037. I mean, we finished with 88 wins, just not good enough to make the playoffs. But we've had a nice run. Had a 102 win season, 101 win season. I mean, these last 4 years have been just by far our best streak in this playthrough. Half our playoff appearances have come in the last 5 years. But I don't know if we'll be able to make it to one more World Series. That's what we're going to hope for. But last year, our third World Series in the last 5 seasons, we lost in 7 games to the Yankees. Probably the best chance we had. Certainly the deepest we've gone into the playoffs in this playthrough. So disappointing, but I'm pretty happy with the record. I mean, I played conservatively, managed conservatively throughout this whole playthrough. I've given myself a few challenges. I don't do multiplayer trades, for instance. I have a few ground rules that I work from that give me a challenge. I can't, for instance, I can't see how my minor league system, how the guys are rated. I think the default setting is you can go in there and your scout will tell you, like Craven's, for instance, he will give you his rating based on the level he's at. So, if he's like 4 out of 5 stars at AA, that means he's one of the best pitchers probably in AA. But if you check his rating against AAA competition and he's 3 out of 5 stars, it might be time to send him up. And that helps, I think, developing players if you have that setting on, but it's not, it's disabled in this playthrough. So those are, a few things like that have given me a challenge. So I think the way I've ended it, I'm happy with. We developed some good players. We drafted some good players here. Zach Thompson, if he stays healthy, may turn out to be one of the best pitchers of his generation, if nothing else. And certainly one of the best players that I've drafted in this playthrough. And I love the fact that he was an 8th round pick. He's a guy who came not necessarily from the middle rounds, but it's tough to get a superstar caliber player, I've noticed, that's not drafted in, say, the first 5 rounds. A lot of times it's hard to get, it's hard to develop a superstar player that wasn't a number 1 pick. So for this guy to develop from that 8th round pick, I'm pretty happy with that. Just all in all, I've enjoyed this playthrough, but it's time to move on, do something different. But we'll start off talking about the off season, and then we'll sim through spring training, get ready for the regular season, and that should be all we cover in this episode. But we made a couple of pickups in the off season. Not much went on. I still have a lot of money to play with, but I'm holding on to it because I didn't really see anybody that just really motivated me to sign them long term or waste a lot of money. Even though I'm retiring, I probably shouldn't care about it. But I do want to stay with that kind of gameplay that I've always had, which is pretty conservative, and just making the few moves I think I need, but just not going overboard and just buying my way into the playoffs. If you look at the offseason summary by team, we're way down here at the bottom. Not just near the bottom, at the bottom. So In other seasons that would probably worry me, but honestly, it's not worrying me too much this year because the guys that we lost, Pete Parker had a great season last year. I don't see him repeating that, honestly, as much as I would like to think he might have one more good season in him. I did offer him, did the $15 million offer that you can do for free agents. He turned it down. That was probably the biggest loss. I also lost Dowdy and Juan Paris. Dowdy, getting to the end of his career, 35, he'll be 36 years old when the season starts. I don't see him repeating what he did last year, and he was injured both seasons. Didn't miss as much last season, but he's not listed as fragile, but his age, I think, makes him doubtful in terms of can he get a full season in. I don't think you're going to see that from him too much. But what he did last year, I don't see him doing that again. And then Juan Paris, I made an upgrade at first, which I think is going to be a better player than Paris was. And Paris, I think, really is overrated at this point. He's just 3 stars, not very good defensively. He's fragile. I was okay letting this guy go. If you look, 2042 had a great season. Last year was just so-so. 3.6 wins above replacement, 280 average, 25 home runs. He missed some time as well. I'm okay to let him go. So those are the big guys that I lost. Bond was another one, but Bond at his age, he's 30. Gosh, I can't remember what his age is. 36 maybe, 37, and he's a 1.5 star player. So I'm not gonna get that much from him either. And then I made this big trade. I did this last episode. I traded away Vega, and I think outside of his fan interest, he's a fan favorite. I'm not sure what this guy gives you. I might be stupid here, but his first 2 seasons, 4+ wins above replacement, not bad. But that average just keeps going down. He strikes out a lot. He can't hit against lefties. He's an 8 contact rated against lefties. That's a guy who's going to barely hit 200 in this league. And I was able to trade him away for a pretty decent pitcher who I'm going to give a look in the starting rotation this spring, but he's probably going to wind up somewhere in the bullpen. Again, I'm okay with that. But the 2 big pickups that I made this year, and they may not be reflected necessarily in the wins above replacement, but Dylan Riegler, 3.5 star pitcher, great individual ratings. I signed this guy to a 5 or 6 year contract with a couple player opt-outs, so he may not stay. $18 million. I think this guy has some really good upside. I think he's definitely going to be a replacement for Pete Parker. Probably going to be a better pitcher than Pete Parker. He's rated better than him for one thing. I think this was a good pickup. So this guy, really 3.5 star pitcher, I think is going to, unless he falls apart, I think he's going to really help that starting rotation. Another guy that I picked up to replace Paris, this is Juan Palma. I traded for him probably in that last episode. He's a 4-star first baseman, better defensive first baseman than Paris. Coming off a pretty solid year. I think his average has the potential to be even higher, but he's got great power. He's a right-handed batter, and that might be more important than anything because I am so loaded on that left side, left-handed batting in the lineup, and I think this guy's going to really help us out. And then the last thing I picked up was a catcher who, I've been really struggling with catcher since I traded away Ian Norman. I got this guy as a free agent, $3 million. I think he's going to be the starting catcher this year. He's also a righty bat. For the most part, his position ratings are okay. He's middle of the road, run of the mill catcher, but he's going to be the best thing that was available for sure. Just $3 million, I think, is pretty good, and I think it's an upgraded catcher. So those 3 moves, that starting pitcher, 3.5 star starting pitcher, 4-star first baseman, and then this catcher, I think filled the biggest holes that I needed. And then on the other side, I'm going with some rookies. I'm going to give him some opportunity here. I think Radeball really is ready. I don't like his eye and discipline. He's a second baseman. You're not going to get much power anyway, sometimes from second baseman position. But he's got good speed and good defense. He's a right-handed bat as well. Hits well, though, against lefties and righties. I like that about him. I think it's time for him to step up. And OSA rated him just a little bit higher than my scout. So if he turns out to be a 2.5 star with those individual ratings, he's only 26. He may even develop a little bit. I think he can handle the starting second base job. Robolo, though, that's going to be the question mark. I was just really impressed, though, the way he looked when we called him up last September. He's got better defensive ratings than Vega. Good speed. I think his home run power can get there if he develops any. And he's just 23, and he's also rated a little bit better by OSA. So I'm going to roll the dice and let him have that spot. The rest of the lineup, though, looks pretty similar to the way it did last year. We got Pritchard, George, Warlick in the outfield with Atchison backing up. I picked up this guy to back up there in the infield. He's another, I think he was a free agent. No, he was a trade, with Seattle. And I traded first baseman Rob Cowell, who I didn't need now. I really thought I needed better defensive depth, or position depth, really, in that middle infield than I needed Cal. So hopefully this will be a good pickup. He's going to be a bench player, but he gives me the kind of things I like to see in a bench player: good speed, good defense at 3 positions, and for the most part, his ratings are same. He's a right-handed bat. They're similar against lefties and righties, but it's nice to have another right-handed bat off the bench, and that balance, I think, is going to help us out as we get through the season. And in terms of lineups, if there's anything that I'm kind of looking for in the spring, it's mainly going to be how Robolo and Radeball do, and if some of these guys like Tyler, Mercadel, or who's going to be the bench players in that outfield. Those are the big question marks. On the pitching side, I think we're set. We're going with similar rotation, for instance, than we had last year. Although Andy Buck is going to be starting, and unless he really disappoints, I think he's going to win a spot. And then Gramajo, I think Gramajo, based on what he did last year, should be the 5th starter again. But there's some other guys here that we'll take a look at too. Murdoch Ings from Thunder Bay, Ontario. I would like to find a spot for this guy, but he was actually the AAA. I don't know if this was in the episode, but he was the pitcher of the year last year in AAA, and he's won it twice in his career. It's kind of crazy when you see a guy like this. It's I think he did in 2042. He should be ready for the majors, but for whatever reason, he's just been a great minor league pitcher. It's just not translated when he's gone up to the majors. But I'm gonna give him some look mainly in long relief. I don't think he's gonna get any time in the rotation, and I think that might be the only real pickup I had on the pitching side. Hatakeyama going to be that closer again, and the rest of the guys are pretty much holdovers from last year. We might see Brinky a little bit more this year. He was at the AAA last year for most of the year. That's about it. Some of these other guys, they're just here because they were on the 40-man roster and they got a spring training invite, but they're more than likely going to start out in the minors. But that's the way the team looks. Let's go ahead and start simming through some games, and we'll see how we look this spring. We've typically done well in the spring. It's not unusual that we finish in top 2. A lot of times we finish with the best record in the National League. It's happened quite a bit. Let's see if there's any big news here, though. Not much so far. And one of the things that I like to look at through the spring is just the free agents that are out there. And at the moment, slim pickings. I mean, these are like, I don't know if this is, it says all players. Yeah, I mean, it tops out at like a 3-star player. I mean, Steve Martin, older, I may have taken a look at him. He's had a good career, but I'm really hoping that Rated Ball handles that spot. So I'm not really seeing anything out there in free agency late in the season like I usually do. And we're off to a fairly slow start. 3-6 looks like, maybe 4-6. Let's see. Nelson out 8 months. It's a rookie. Trujillo, big player at times for Colorado. One of the things that kind of turns me off this guy is he's rated at 10 contact. So these are Colorado numbers. 237 average, 259 average. I don't know if it's going to translate into another team. But we got a trade proposal from the Yankees. They've got a third baseman. And they're wanting Andy Buck. Andy Buck has been very popular in the offseason. OSA just thinks he's a 2.5-star pitcher, but I think he's probably going to be an adequate 4th or 5th starter in that rotation. But in terms of like, I mean, this would be an upgrade probably for now at third base over Raboyo, but I don't want to give up on him yet. I mean, this guy has some good upside, Raboyo, and I want to give him a shot. That may be I may regret that because that's a pretty fair trade offer for Buck. I mean, it's a position player that I really need based on the ratings and the roster that I have. But again, I'm gonna ride my gut, my instinct on this one. All right, so we're about up to almost the midway point. Let's see what we're looking like in the spring here. 5-7, not too good. We usually do a little bit better than that. I'm going to go one more week, and then I'll take a look at the individual performances on the team. 7-8, 10-7. So we looks like we had a winning streak going on there. Let me see if it'll tell me. No, it's not telling me how many we've won in a row. Yeah, because it's not going to do that, I don't think, in the spring training. But looks like we, just looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, won 6 in a row, and we're now 10-7, tied with the Mets for the best record in the East. Gonna take a look at the news. Chad Sanders, he's a guy who we faced in the playoffs. He's gone for the month. Or sorry, for the year. Maestas, a good young player. He's injured. Hopefully he's not going to start picking up injuries. That would be, based on his ratings, I'd like to see how he turns out. All right, so 10-7. Let me take a look at the pitching staff first, see what we're doing. And I guess the big questions here are really going to be how Buck is doing, and is Riegler's looking good too. I really think that was a good pickup in the offseason. But, man, Barbarossa, no runs in 10 innings. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here looking at the numbers, but Gramajo has looked pretty good. Yeah, so I don't see Heyer being ready, and he struggled. I don't see him being ready for a rotation spot right now. But the rest of the bullpen, no big surprises. Otero is a guy who's going to start probably at AAA. Colvin is somebody I don't know what I'm going to do with. I'm pretty sure, because I think he's probably ready to pitch somewhere in the majors, but He just might not have a spot in our staff because we're so deep. And then on the lineup side, so big questions here. Sean Hicks looking really good in spring. Palma struggling, but his ratings I think will play out as the season goes on. But Radeball looking really good. Rebolio not so much. No home runs, hitting 154. A lot of strikeouts. I want to give him some time. I want to see how he does. Gutierrez having a great spring. Pritchard, George, Warlick, they're adequate. I mean, I would love to have a better outfield than what I have. They're all lefty bats, and you got good speed with Pritchard and George. You got pretty decent power with Warlick, but they don't seem they seem to be streaky, and they're just not consistent enough for me to feel that good about them. But I could not find an upgrade this offseason. All right, so that's how we're looking so far. I think I'm still. I don't see anything that's really scared me off too bad so far. Let's take another look, another week here. Yeah, it's we're staying up there with New York. Spring coverage, we are 14-9, a half game behind them. Looking at the rest of the league, Oakland, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Boston, New York, they're looking good. No one is really stepping up here in the National League except New York and Philadelphia. Miami having a pretty decent year. At times they were competitive in the East last year. They were closest to us at the end of the year. Here's some bad news. Josh Gordon going to be out for a couple weeks. Look like he's got a week left, so he'll be back in time for the season start. We got a scout find, and it's not much. All right, so let's go. We're getting close to the end of spring here. Who's going to win out between us and New York is the big question. It looks like New York got us by a game, but I think it's probably the way that I handle spring. I don't really go in there and tamper too much with the lineups. I like my starters to get time in spring training, but I will rest them maybe every third, fourth game. But because of that, I probably win more than a lot of teams who are mainly giving their young players more of a shot, if that makes sense. But we always do pretty well in the spring, and we did again this year. Just one game back from the Mets and Tampa Bay and the Yankees and Oakland for having the best record in baseball this spring. But I want to look now at the individual pitching staff first. Now, I can go ahead and like Juan Tejada, he's going back to Reading. All right. And he's going back to Reading. I'm going to take a look at I'm going to try to pay attention to those guys as the season goes on to see if they're developing, because they're two of my best rated pitchers in the system, especially Viramontes. If he improves his control, this guy has potential to be a great pitcher. I mean, he's got 3 fairly strong pitches, good stamina. He should be a good starting pitcher. Has looked good in the minors in a couple stops. But right now, he's just not really ready for AAA even. And then after that, I think there was a couple more guys. Steve Heyer, nope. Juanotero, he was the other guy. I think he's ready for AAA. And so that's going to give me, I like to go with 12 pitchers. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I got 4 guys I got to cut here. Higher, he is going to be in the bullpen, and he may not like that, but you can see he's a 3-star, potential 4 as a reliever. He's more valuable there. Brennecke had a great spring. I kind of like this guy maybe as a setup. Man, it's going to be tough once again to whittle down. And look at Ings. 13 1/3, no runs, 2 walks, 20 strikeouts. It's a shame that this guy, that I don't have a place for him. I'd really like to put him somewhere. But once again, I'll probably try to trade him and see what I can get. Now, on the lineup side, Palma, no home runs. That's very surprising. This guy has 16 power. Hicks, I think, had a decent, well, more than just decent, good spring. 7 home runs, 15 RBIs. Radeball looked really good. Rebollo struggled quite a bit. So I'm really going to have to, I don't want to go into panic mode with him, but if he's not ready, I'm going to have to find a replacement probably pretty early. Pritchard looked pretty decent. George looked good, hitting 300. That's really good. I'd like to see that for a full season. And Warlick looked good. So for the most part, outside of Rebollo, everybody looked pretty solid. If I'm looking at this, I'm going to keep Thiem up there because I think I like the defensive replacement angle and speed that it gives me. But Mercadal, if that's how you say his name right, he has not played above AA, so he's going to start out in AAA. See how he does there. He's young as well. So that leaves me, I've got 13 position players I like to go with. So I got 2 guys to move down, and it's really going to be more than likely Barajas, and he's probably at the end of his. I'm guessing he's at the end of his option years, but we'll see. Nope, he's able to go down. And then, is it going to be Villalobos or is it going to be Benefield? I'll decide that offline because it takes me some deliberation when we get down to this point. But I've got to get down to 25. I'm at 30. Some of these pitchers are really going to be on the bubble. I mean, Colvin might be on the bubble. Even Brinky, as much as I liked him in spring, he may be on the bubble. Ings is out of option years. I'm going to have to trade him if I try to send him down. So that's the few roster moves I'll have to make offline. But I think for the most part, we're set. We're going to have the lineup and the starting rotation and the pitching staff I thought we were going to have going into the spring, so no surprises. But what we'll do, I'll go offline, finish up that final roster, and come back to start the season, probably sim through first month of the season in the next episode. Probably get through the season in 3 episodes is how I usually handle it. And then it'll be it. Either we make the playoffs, make another run, or we're going to retire with a pretty decent run of it. So in a lot of ways, I know I haven't won the World Series, but to me this year is going to be gravy because whatever happens, I'm pretty satisfied with the last 5 years and the run overall. So if we don't make it, I'll live with it. But for now, thanks for watching, as always, liking, subscribing. And I will see you next episode when we start off the 2044 season. Thanks.